So, y'all, I promise I won't do this to you. I knew that Tony would be willing, and but I won't do this to you guys. I know some of you have already told me, no, I don't want to be interviewed. So, Tony, I understand that you and Andrea have known each other, and her little brother John have known each other for years. How did that happen?
Well, I was stationed in Gulfport in 1978. I came here when I first went to boot camp and A school, and that's how I got to the coast from Virginia. I was originally from Virginia. And on the latter part of that tour, Andrea and her family moved to Gulfport. Her father was in the Seabees, and I was after my first enlistment. I thought that I would do better on the outside than the inside, and was going to get out of the Navy. And what they do if you've got not enough time to deploy again, because that's what Seabees do, is deploy, and they give you some kind of job on the base till it's your time to separate. Well, you never know it, but I was a lifeguard at the military pool. And when Andrea came to Gulfport and she'd finished college and was seeking new opportunities as kind of a thing, she was a lifeguard at the family pool. And we actually took the same life-saving class together, and I think I was pretty much a show because I wasn't the greatest swimmer. Usually in the military, they don't ask you if, a lot of times what skills you have. They says, oh, by the way, show up to the pool, you're gonna be a lifeguard for the next 3 months or 4 months, and you had to make it work. So that's how we met, in a lifeguard class at the CP base. And then I pursued that opportunity and was somewhat accepted, and we dated till I transferred. We were together for about 8 years. And then the Navy sent me somewhere else. Andrea had a really good job. He'd gotten a good job here, and being a military family, thought that she wanted to maintain that career path and work, and we just assumed that I would come back to Gulfport, because that's what Seabees do. They go to Gulfport or Port Hueneme. And when that time came for me to transfer from Norfolk, Virginia, they sent me to California, of course. You always said put what you don't want on there, because they're not going to give it to you, and they'll send you somewhere else. Because I put Gulfport, and they sent me somewhere else. So that's how we met, and how we kind of were separated in our relationship, and we both had families of our own. I was married and Andrea was married. We didn't have any children, and then we reunited years later. So that was like '89, I think, was when I got transferred to Norfolk, and then we reunited in 2019.
Wow. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? So you're from Virginia, and I know you had the pain of living in Key West for several years, right?
It was horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah. And you moved from there to here.
Yes.
Okay.
I did.
Gladly gave it up, did you?
Well, and being from Virginia, and I grew up in the Norfolk area, actually Hampton, Virginia, and it's mostly military, whether you're Air Force or Army or Navy. It's just a lot of military there. And when I left there in the Seabees, there was so much more opportunity in other places. And so it didn't even cross my mind that I was going back to Virginia. And then my last duty station, well, it wasn't quite my last, but I was stationed in Key West, and I retired out of Key West. So then I actually lived there for 25 years.
Wow.
Wow. And then when we reconnected, just a little quick, because she, we were talking on a telephone. I'd made a trip to see her over here, and she came to Key West and made a trip there, and we're saying, well, what do you think about me relocating back to the coast? And she said, well, I think that'd be great. I said, well, because it'll take a year to sell my house, and and you can come and visit. And so she's expecting all these trips, and I put it on the market, and it sold the first day. So she was like, well, wait a minute, what about my trips? So we have many of those still planned. We've been back, and we intend to go back more. And so.
Yeah. Well, you and Andrea took a trip a couple of weeks ago, was it? You went to Las Vegas?
We did.
We now have out of Gulfport a direct flight to Las Vegas, I understand, and you enjoyed it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've been to Vegas, several times, and Andrea had been as a child, and so that straight flight on breeze makes it real easy, and just to pop in for a few days and then come back. So, but Vegas is one of those places where you don't have to gamble. I'm not a gambler. Andrea doesn't. We didn't drop a single coin in a machine. Even that's not how you do it anymore. But we had a fantastic time. Did the pool in the morning and did inside air conditioning shows in the afternoon and evening, and shared a plate every evening. So we were economical, and we had a good time. So,
well, good.
And we hope to have many more trips. We're actually going to Fort Myers at the end of the month. So we're just going out for a few. I got a brother in Tampa.
Okay.
And I'm going to stop in and see him. And Naomi, our friend Naomi, is in Tampa. And then we'll go down there and then backtrack it and get back just in time before the holiday weekend. So.
Well, I know that unity teachings may be different for you. It is something that you eased into with your relationship with Andrea. How do you feel about it now? Do you still cling to some of those foundational principles from your early religion and childhood, or if anything about that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I grew up in a Methodist-based family. Everybody was Methodist, and they were participating Methodist. I mean, it was like the whole family, aunts, uncles, their whole lives, and that was a big part of our life was church. And but it's kind of like growing up, like you discussed some, that you hear things that you makes you wonder, makes you question, and I'm not sure that in any religion, just from human nature, we would do the same thing, whether it's Catholics or whatever. And so as you become an adult and leave, and again being in the military, everything was so diverse. There was people from all over. There was people of different cultures. And they would have one church service. And it didn't matter whether or not you were what color your skin or what. And so to live in that manner, I was comfortable. So coming back here, Andrea said she attended Unity and all, and the open armness of Unity, the non-judgmental value I see in our services, based on it doesn't matter, just come and sit and pray. And I've always tried to. I keep one thing in mind. My mother taught me this as a boy, to live by the golden rule.
Right.
So every day, live by the golden rule and be kind. And I think that has to be enough, in the sense of whether you go to heaven, or I know we don't really believe in hell, but afterlife, of what your afterlife becomes. If you live a good life while we're here, live by the golden rule, that everything will be okay.
Yeah.
And it'll come back to you in that same way.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. Well, that's a good thing to believe. You made me think of something, though, while you were saying that I've heard there's a new way of framing the golden rule, and that is not to treat others the way you'd want to be treated, but there's just a little bit different edge to it now, and that is to treat others the way they want to be treated. Does that...
I think I'd have to think about that.
Okay,
for a few minutes.
okay.
Because I have friends that want me to treat them a certain way, and that it ain't going to happen. So, you know, it just ain't going to happen.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm just being a little, comical there.
Well,
but
that's usually something I should have asked a woman, because women usually are the ones with the intuition to sort of, oh, I think I know how you're feeling right now, you know, that sort of thing. But no, it was just something I've heard more of lately. I thought I'd throw it in there just for something
I'll
you
pray
think
on-
about
I'll
that.
pray on that
He's
one.
going to pray on that. So when did you start with music? Was it the guitar first, or?
No, as a youth, I was a percussionist. I played the drums. I had joined the school band in junior high school. Was kind of short-lived. I was in the band just a couple of years, but we had a choir director at our Methodist church who was the band director for elementary. They had elementary school band in Newport News, Virginia, and so she gave music lessons, and she was also our church choir director. So, but she was pretty smart in the sense that, so she kind of gave me free drum lessons, private drum lessons growing up, on the fact that whenever she needed me to play at church, that there was some obligation there. And so on certain holidays, like for the Battle Hymn of the Republic and things like that. So I learned, I started playing percussions, and then when I joined the military, you can't take a drum set with you. So, just being stationed overseas, you're sitting on little islands, different places with not much to do after work. And people would just pick up the guitar or pick up whatever. So it was probably, I don't know, I was in my late 20s when I first started playing guitar a little bit, and just kept on playing a little bit. It probably wasn't until I started coming here that I've been able to practice more and play more and have more opportunities to play. I never really played in front of anybody till here. And I just started playing the bass a couple of years ago after Dennis left. Charles, I think maybe Sherry might have edged him on, but Charles came to me and asked me if I ever thought about playing the bass, because I had never played the bass before. And I said, well, no, not really. He says, well, why don't you think about it? So next day I went online and bought a bass, and about 3 weeks later I was sitting in one of those blue chairs there, trying to follow the music a little bit. And
The chairs of honor.
So I've been blessed with that, to be with all of the musicians here, whether it's on Friday night or Guitar Circle or whatever, because it's given us, that opportunity to, I think I told them when I first started, they said, well, would you do this? I said, yes, I'd love to do it as long as we're having fun, as long as this is not become a job, as in the sense of whatever, and it never has. And so we enjoy it and we have fun with it, and we're learning from each other, and whether it's you bring a new piece of music that may not have been presented to that group of people, or they show me some things on the guitar or the bass, and when I'm lucky, every now and then they let me sing. So not very often, but they got a deal with Marcus up there. He turns my mic off.
Oh, I definitely know that's not true. I know you've helped me out a time or two when I was asked to to lead a memorial service, and the musicians had just spent a lot of time rehearsing and performing at another one, and I hated to ask them again for another Saturday. And so we went through the week and thinking about music, and I was thinking about what could I play on the piano that would be acceptable and that would be okay. And then Friday, the day before the service, I called Tony and I said, Tony, I need your help. I need you tomorrow. And he came and he performed and did an absolutely beautiful job. What's that song, the one that...
Vince Gill, Go Rest High.
Go Rest High on that mountain. Oh boy, that was beautiful. That's the one that I had in mind. That I'd been thinking about it all day and thinking that would be perfect for this particular service and the people that I knew would be there and how much they would appreciate it. And Tony, of course, said, yes, I'll do it. And I appreciate that about you. I appreciate the fact that you take so many calls about the maintenance of this building, this facility. It may look like it just gets done on its own, but Tony has a team, and as a matter of fact, if any of you would be willing to serve on a team, we have several categories that you could sign up for, and I'll have a list next week. I guarantee you that you could sign up for anything that you'd choose. One is the worship committee, and then fellowship, and then of course Tony heads up the building and maintenance, and it's a big job to volunteer for. There's always a lot going on, isn't there?
Well, little things, and that's what matters. And it's Dan's done it for many years, and when I first got here, Dan was probably the prominent maintenance person, and then everybody in here, if we've ever made a phone call, have never heard the word no. So it's not just me or Dan. It's if we have a cleanup day, or if we have a bigger day. Like I remember when the garden outside was really like a little desert almost, and
Right.
That's when JR was with us, and Rosa was with us, and we had a good day. We sodded and laid brick, and we never hear the word no, which is what's really nice about everybody here. So, in fact, we had those conversations this weekend. I'm going on travel next week to Virginia, and I know Dan's planning a trip. Just made a couple calls. I got a call from Joey. I made a connection to Doug, and now we have a whole another setup from when we're not here, and just the word no is never there, so that's really good. Yeah.
Well, we certainly appreciate that, and that's what makes it so special to belong to a group like this and to have this community, is that they become your absolute best friends. Your the friends, the people you want to be with on Sunday mornings or whatever days that you're blessed to be with them. And we give thanks every Sunday for that. And I guess I've been thinking about it a whole lot this week too, about how important that is in your lives, especially if you do live away from where you have other family. Your church family takes its place. And that's just the way it is, and incredibly, incredibly important to keep that connection. That we appreciate everything you do, Tony. You're just a blessing to us, and we know you're a blessing to Andrea. And I was just fascinated to find out how your friendship had lasted. It was so many years ago, and then I think you told me once, and now I'm going to, John Canageiser is purposely not meeting my gaze. He's hiding. He's afraid that I'm going to say something about him to include him in this conversation. But now, John is Andrea's little brother, and you knew him at a time when he was growing up, right?
I did. Well, he was in high school.
He was in high school.
Right.
And then when he was supposed to go into the service, I understand something happened that prevented that. What happened that day?
Well, you know, I wasn't sure. You know, John was pretty much wide open in high school. If there was an empty jet ski, he'd be on it. If there was he came from Hawaii and he was a surfer. So you come here and there's no waves, right? So what do? You get his dad's speedboat and go as fast as you can with John behind it on his surfboard. And that was before boogie boarding. So that was kind of our situation.
Okay.
And I had ridden motorcycles most of my life, and then John decided to get a motorcycle. And so I was always like, oh no, I hope that wasn't my influence that he wanted. But really, one of his best friends owned French Honda, and he was all around that anyway. So, but I was coming off the CB base, heading towards the Canagizers' home, and there was an accident on Pass Road ahead of me. And I could see a motorcycle strewn over this side of the road and a body laying in the middle of the road. And it was John. And I pulled up, immediately got off and addressed the officers. And luckily he wasn't severely injured, but he broke his arm. And so, he's a military dependent. His dad's in the military, so Keesler, emergency, et cetera, et cetera. Then I went and got the family, because I think your dad was on deployment and he wasn't there.
He was coming home to swear my brother in.
Right, so John was getting ready to go into the Navy, and a week after that, he was supposed to enlist in the Navy. His dad was supposed to come home. I'm not sure where he was, but he was on deployment to come home to swear him in, and that got put on delay because of the broken arm. And then between the accident and when he healed, the captain and John, their dad was a captain in the Navy, and they had come up with an alternative plan of John going to school, continuing his school in a trade school in Greensboro and all the above. So that's kind of, you always, you don't want to see any type of accident, but when you come up and you start recognizing things, yeah, I knew the motorcycle. I knew, once immediately who it was. So.
Interesting. Well, maybe divine intervention was good in that case, John. What year was that?
It was in 83, 84, 84, yeah, 83, 84, yeah.
I can't remember which armed conflicts there were after that, but maybe John was spared that because he had that accident. Maybe that was divine intervention, John. We'll just claim that. I thought Andrea's dad was in the Seabees too.
It terrified me.
Oh.
Well, when we first started dating, I knew that we used to have the sticker on the windshield of the cars, and she wouldn't give me very much information. She was holding back, and because I was an enlisted guy, and all I knew is there was a full bird sticker on her car, and she wasn't married, so I knew that was her dad's and sticker, but he was deployed, so it was okay. I'm thinking maybe he just won't. He'll stay deployed or something. But no, he came home, and we met, and what a fine man he was. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He sure was. And where did you go around the world?
Well, again, Seabees deploy. For those who don't know what Seabees do, we do construction work for the government overseas. Advanced base development, runways, buildings. We do a lot of work with the Marine Corps and their MEPs, and they go in and clear our area out. We go and put the base in, put a runway in, whatever. And That's the short version of the mission statement. So to be forward deployed puts you in a place of readiness that if you were needed in a time, then you're already there. Well, I was pretty much a Cold War military person. There was some conflicts while I was in, but not major. I mean, we had the first Desert Storm when I was in. I was on a island in the Indian Ocean when we had the Lebanon hostage crisis. We were on standby out in the Indian Ocean for that. But I really didn't have to put boots on the ground in the desert. So I always say I'm thankful for that. You know, I've done a couple. My previous wife, ex-wife, she was a school teacher, and so a couple times we're invited to talk to students about the military on special occasions, and it was always kind of strange. I felt it strange. The first thing they always ask you is, "Did you ever kill anybody?" You know, I mean, it's just, you know, here's a 13-year-old wanting to know if you ever had to kill anybody, and I was always grateful and to say that I didn't have to, and that I hadn't, and I was blessed for that, and so that they were conflicted with my answer. You know, how could you be in the military and then, you know, so. But in what we do in the CBs, like you say, we were always in the mix of things, but we were over there doing construction work. So I deployed 10 times. I lived in anywhere. I was in Diego Garcia twice. I was in Puerto Rico twice. I lived in Greece. I lived in Spain. I lived in Guam, Palau, Okinawa. I traveled Japan, throughout Japan on an inspection team for a year. Alaska, you know, but we were working. So, right. And that's our story. I'm not going to comment on that anymore. We were working, and Doug also was a CB, and we
right.
When Doug first came, we made a connect. We were actually in the same battalion at the same time on the same deployment and didn't know each other. You know.
Wow.
And had mutual friends, yeah. But you know, we pulled the old cruise book open, and there he is.
I think Doug has a photo of himself were you receiving a medal from Andrea's father? Yes, that's what I thought. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so a lot of connections.
My goodness. Okay, well, was there anything else you'd like to share with us, Tony?
No, not really. I just, you know, we all pray for peace. We all hope for the best, and we all hope to be happy. And
right.
That means different things to different people. And whether it's money, whether it's just contentment or whatever, but it's never too late to go to that place to be happy. And that's whether it's up here or somewhere else. There's no reason to wait any longer, because we may not be here tomorrow, you know, so let's be happy today, you know.
That's good. Thank you so much. We appreciate that.